welcome to episode 5 of the Yarn Curator podcast. My name is Naomi and I am the host of this knitting and spinning podcast where I like to document and talk about all the things I've been making lately. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you're a new viewer or a new subscriber, welcome. If you're a returning viewer or a returning subscriber, welcome back. Happy to have you here. I'm gonna apologize, I just dropped my show notes on the floor right before I started filming. So there's some things that I want to go over today with you guys, and I've made some notes. Hopefully they will help keep things organized and I can remember to talk about everything, and that'll cut out on the amount of time editing. So yeah, we'll jump right in. I did want to tell you guys some exciting news. I've been slowly working on putting together a website, so you can go check that out. It's called yarncurator.com. I'll be posting copies of show notes on there, as well as some hand-dyed fiber and hand-spun yarn for sale. There's not a whole lot up there right now, but it's just to get it started. But it's something I've been wanting to do for a while and I've been putting off, and so now with the podcast getting started, I thought what better time than to jump right in. So there is that. And then if you're also interested in following me on social media, my name on Instagram, which I'll put down here, is the Yarn Curator as well. And if you'd like to find me on Ravelry, my name is House of Cardigans. So that's where to find me on social media. And then I did want to tell you guys, I know if you've watched past episodes, you'll know I have talked ad nauseum about my older sister's hand-dyed yarn company, which is Felicity Yarn Studio. After I decided to jump in and start podcasting, she also decided to jump in and start podcasting. So if you'd like to check out her channel, it's Felicity Yarn Studio as well on YouTube. Go check it out. She's got 2 episodes and a couple little mini vlogs up there as well. So go check that out. And while we're talking about other podcasts to recommend, there's 2 I want to mention that I've been enjoying lately since beginning this channel. One of the things I've really enjoyed is finding other smaller, lesser known knitting podcasters, and so one of those who just kind of clicked with and really like her aesthetic is with the When Harry Met Ani podcast, and I'll list the name right here. And then as well as through her podcast, I found another one that's an absolute hoot called Chevy Rel Makes Stuff. And if you just want someone talking about real life and knitting, that is the one to check out. So it's made me chuckle every time I've watched an episode. So go check those out, as well as Zoe's. So yeah, and then also one last thing, I just wanted to apologize. I know it's been about a week and a half, 2 weeks since I last filmed my last episode. It has just been busy. My husband went up to North Carolina, and so he was gone, and then he got sick when he got back in town. And so between that and now prepping for Hurricane Dorian and everything else that's been happening, I just haven't had a chance to sit down and film. So I do apologize, it's been a while. The good news is I have a ton of stuff to talk about with you guys, so I'm just going to jump right in and address the sweater in the room. So for my first finished object this week, it is my Soldotna crop top. It's a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. The yarns I used are hand-dyed by Zoe, my sister, Felicity Yarn Studio. She has kits to buy this colorway combination, and so I'll stand up and show it to you guys. So this was knit on size 5s for the body and 3 for the ribbing, and you can see here the fleece stitch along the body in the peach and kind of darker minty tealy green. And so I have to say, you guys, I'm absolutely tickled with the finished product. I could not be happier. Sorry, you can see my dress from work, and then I threw on yoga pants when I got home. I know I'm not the only one who does that, but yeah, so just my thoughts on the pattern. I wanted to get them out there. I know so many people have talked about like what a quick, fun knit this is. I have to say, and I've mentioned this in the past, I really struggled with this upper portion of the color work, and that's partly a mistake on my fault. I didn't use stitch markers to delineate the pattern repeats, which is probably what I just about every row I'd get off by 1 or 2 stitches, and so, you know, that's my own fault. I could have used tools to make it easier. And then the other thing is, as I was making this, I just kept thinking, like, is this the right color combination? You know, should I have picked different colors? You know, you look at other people's versions of this pattern and you fall in love with it. It looks so good in so many different color combinations. So as I was knitting it, I just kept second guessing my choices. I wasn't really in love with the product, with the pattern that I was making. And at one point I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna mail it up to Zoe and it can be a shop sample for her. And then I tried it on and I absolutely loved it. I think it's cute as a button, so sorry Zoe, you're not getting a shop sample. It's love. I wore it to work the other day here in Florida. The yarn itself is a 50-50 blend of superwash merino and cotton, so it does breathe well. I wore it Tuesday to work, and yeah, I didn't have a problem at all. It's actually funny, my office is generally freezing because we have humidity issues, so the way they control the humidity is by dropping the temperature. So it's year round, like 70 degrees in my office. So my core was actually fine, but my arms kept getting warm, so I had like another sweater draped over my shoulders. And then for modifications to the sweater, I didn't do that many other than knitting the body longer than, I didn't do a traditional crop top. It hits just at the top of my mid hip, and which is perfect for me. I do plan on finding a linen dress to wear with it, but I can still wear it with the jeans. I have other dresses I can throw it over, and I think it works great. I do think I want to knit a second one much down the road. Let me get away from the painful memories of the yoke, but I want to knit one that's 3/4 length sleeve. And yeah, so I think I ended up doing, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I did 9 full repeats on the body. The pattern calls for 5 for the size that Caitlin knit. But she does say, you know, knit it to your preferred length or whatever you get. 5 repeats for me was to like right here underneath my boobs, and I'm not into boob sweaters. So yeah, I don't know, I keep talking about boobs and sweaters on this podcast, but oh well, it's true. So yeah, absolutely pleased with this pattern. I don't think I have much more to say about it other than that, like other people have noticed, the neckline doesn't quite match the picture. That doesn't bother me. I've actually never really knit much with this high and tight neckline, or at least to me it is. I normally prefer something a little bit more boat neck in shape, but I find that I really like it. I think it frames my face nicely. I think it frames other people's faces nicely. So yeah, that's my Soldotna. It's off the needles. I probably about 2 weeks ago sat down and really plowed through finishing it, and just was, this part of the body was kind of addictive with the fleece stitch, and then yeah, just powered through, knocked out the sleeves in a night, and been loving it ever since. So Soldotna is done. And then the other thing I have to talk about, which is my only spinning project, but it also counts as a finished object. This is something that I actually just finished winding it off the bobbin and onto the Nitty Naughty. So I have been talking about this fiber since episode 1, in which I showed the undyed fiber. It is from Gail's Fiber Art. It's a 80-10-10 blend of Targhee, bamboo, and silk. And then my sister Zoe also dyed up the bare braids and then mailed those down to me last year after SAFF. And so this was what I started for Tour de Fleece, and didn't finish it till much after Tour de Fleece. But my goals for this were to practice patience with my spinning and to finally produce a fingering weight yarn, which I have achieved. Yay! So this is 8 ounces of fiber. If my maths are correct, it is about 770 yards. So that means I was pretty much spinning bang on for a fingering weight yarn if you think about you know, most fingering weights out there are, you get about 400 yards, 400 to 450, depending on how thick the fingering weight is, per 100 grams / 4 ounces of fiber. I know those aren't exactly the same, just, y'all know what I'm trying to say. It's just about right. And the way I spin this was using a short forward draw. It's primarily a worsted spin, so I tried not to let too much air into my singles as I was drafting. And the way I chose to go through the color progression was to try and spin each of the braids in chunks of color, so I would end up getting a striping yarn. And I mentioned this, if you want to go back and listen to that part of the podcast, because the two braids weren't dyed the same, it wasn't going to be like an identical stripe where they'd line up in pine. So instead I get all these lovely barber poles in there where the blue lined up with the purple, or white, or purple and white, or purple and blue, and so you guys get the idea. But it does stripe. There are some long blocks of purple and some long blocks of blue, and so I've been having to think about what I want to make out of this yarn, because I'm definitely going to make something with it after all that time and effort. And I want to either use it in the yoke or the body as the CC in a all over colorwork sweater. So something, and I'm not going to use it for that, but something similar to Guthrie or that kind of style, if you know what I mean, for sweaters. So if you guys have any suggestions for colorwork sweaters, feel free to drop them down below. With a little under 800 yards, that should be more than enough to do a project like that. And I'm so proud of the skein. I can't wait to pull it off and take some pictures. If you want to see some pictures of the singles and this while I was playing it together, I have posted some of those pictures on Instagram, so feel free to go check those out. But I'm absolutely tickled with that. And yeah, so that came out great. And then we will move on, because I have a ton to cover, so I apologize if I'm flying through everything, you guys, but I want to make sure I make it through everything. And my husband's actually working in our spare room right now, so I don't want him to feel like he's trapped in there. So once I finished my Soldotna, and I finished plying that yarn, I picked back up my Navelli, which is another pattern by Caitlin Hunter, and I spent most of last weekend working on this, and I was able to make some progress. I haven't shown this in a few episodes now, because the first time I showed it, it had just been cast on, and like one row of the 2x2 rib had been worked. So I finished about a fourth to a third of the main color work chart, so you can see that here. Oh, my needle minder just fell off. And so I'm absolutely loving it. This is another project that, as I've been knitting it, I've been second guessing my yarn choice for it, and because I've been wondering if it's too light, but I think the problem is just the stitches are not defined up here where I'm working on the needle. Once they get a few rows down and relax a little, it's coming through much crisper, and you can really see the pattern starting to show through there. So yeah, I'm just about to start the kind of the main star portion of that colorwork chart, and I chose to go with a lighter charcoaly gray here, so it would be a more heathered look for the overall appearance of this pattern. And so for this, I am using yarn from Holst, and it is their Coast Base, pick this up, which is 65% lamb's wool, 45% cotton, and I think, once again, this is, since it is so light, I think this will be another breathable, wearable project here in Florida. So yeah, I think it'll be fine. I went back and looked at my swatch to make sure I wasn't crazy, and I liked the fabric that produced, so I think I just need to get through the color work section. And and this will be a little bit of a skip for acquisitions. I went back down to the yarn shop in Sarasota the other day to check out the rest of their summer sale and pick up something for Zoe, which I'll let her talk about on her podcast. But I got these for putting your circular needles into, and I have no clue if I'm using them correctly. Will someone, like, I just snap them in here? Is that how you're supposed to do it? Do they go in this zipper? Does anyone know? I've been knitting for 15 years and this is the first time I've ever bought these, so someone let me know how you use this. I need to know. Someone tell me. So yeah, and then the only other things I want to say about this right now is it's knit on size 2s and 3s, and I am being a good knitter and using my stitch markers in between my repeats. So there's much less profanity and there is much less tinking within this project. So it's making progress. This is probably going to go on the back burner again though, because I have some other commitments that I need to finish, and I think it's just going to be a slog. I know the last time I had talked here, I said I wanted to have the color work done by the time I flew out for my girlfriend's bachelorette party, and it's just not going to happen. I have a couple other projects that are going to take front row over it, so slow going in my little gift sack from Target. I know Zoe teased me after I filmed the last one. She's like, girl, you need to get some project bags, but I like my little sack. It's perfect for holding sweaters quantities. So yeah. Up next, I did cast on, so the next two things are going to be new cast-ons. So I did cast on the Stalactite sweater by Camille Rosselle. It is from, I don't think it's from a magazine. It might have been, excuse me, gotta stay hydrated. Originally I thought it was from an old Lina or Pom Pom, but I don't think that's right. Anyways, I digress. It is over here in this little tote bag that was gifted to me by my mother-in-law, which was famously holding my Soldotna. It's another great sweater size project bag. So I have cast on, and I've kind of been working, I've been working on this in the evenings primarily. So I've cast on the neck, which doesn't look great on camera, at least at the moment. It looks quite wide, but I'm sure once I pick up the neck and knit that, it'll tighten up again. And then, so yeah, I've worked one repeat so far of the slip stitch pattern, and I still have, I think, 8 to 10 more rows to go of raglan increases before I divide. Excuse me, we just ate dinner. I have about 8 to 10 rows to go before I divide my sleeves. I swatched for this, and my swatch, so here's my swatch that I did the other day. I swatched the needles for the size needles that's called for in the pattern, which I believe is size 7s. And it was actually a little over gauge, but I really like the fabric that I'm getting with this. It has a nice drape, and it's not see-through or anything. So I decided to just go down a size than that I would normally knit. So I am knitting a size medium as opposed to a size large to fit my bust, because I did some math and I should have about 5 extra inches for the gauge, which would give me the amount of ease that I want for my sweater. So I'm not too worried about this. And this didn't really grow after I blocked it. It bloomed a little and kind of filled in, but it didn't, the swatch didn't necessarily grow much larger than it currently is. So for the yarns for this, I'm using Croft 29. It is some delicious Heberdean wool that I picked up at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. It's from the Isle of Skye, and then I believe this white yarn is just some old Berroco that I had in my stash. I knit my mom a pair of house slippers earlier this year, and it's left over from that, and I'm pretty sure it's just some Berroco wool. And I was gonna use, I have some Shetland here at home that I am I'm currently trying to process, and so I just haven't had the time to spin it, and I got to this part of the pattern and I just grabbed this out of my stash, and it'll be fine. It's such a minimal part of the pattern anyways. I do have to say, I feel like these raglan increases are taking forever to get through. I don't know how I'm still increasing, but the end is in sight. I will pick it up. I've almost worked through my first ball of yarn as well. And other than that, yeah, it's a really enjoyable pattern. The slip stitch pattern is really interesting. It's actually funny, every time I slip it, it's untwisting the ply a little bit in here. So I'm like, you know, I might need to work a little bit of extra twist into those. But yeah, it's top down raglan. Hopefully I will divide for the sleeves soon. I do want this finished for SAFF, which is the end of October, which should be more than enough time to finish this by then. And then to mark the beginning of my row, I did get this little progress creeper from the Corner of Craft from Hannah, who has the Corner of Craft podcast. I might have mentioned her in the past, but my husband and I used to have a cat named Lucy. She was all white with pink ears. She actually had blue eyes, but I couldn't pass up the chance to get it and to think about her when I knit. So she passed away about a year ago, and she had been my cat since I was 16, and so yeah, that was a hard day last year. To say goodbye to my baby. And so yeah, I just think of her and it makes me happy every time I look at it. So thank you, Hannah. If you ever feel inclined to make one with blue eyes, I'll probably buy a couple from you. When I got this though, I also picked up one of the gray cats that I'm going to send to Zoe because Lucy, when I found her, she wandered into my garage when I was, once again, 16. I was in high school. So she wandered into the garage that morning, and my dad brought her back to my bedroom, and he was like, he swears, like, to this day that I was mad at him that morning. I don't remember being pissed off at him. I'm just not a morning person, so I might have been crabby, but I don't think I was angry at him over it. Anyways, he says he brought in the cat as like a cheer me up, pick me up, you know, try and get you not as angry as me at me. So he brought her in, and she was just this scrawny little starved thing with a cut across her nose, and it was love at first sight. And then I went into my sister's room because she was living with us at the time, and I was like, Zoe, don't let this cat back outside. Like, we got to figure out a way to keep it. So long story short, Lucy not only arrived to us homeless and starved, but she was knocked up. And so about 2 months later, she had kittens underneath my bed, and my sister now has one of her cats named Darcy, who's gray and white with green eyes, and is just gargantuan in comparison to her mother, but also sweet, very sweet kitty. So I got her a gray stitch marker for Ding Dong, and a little white one for me, and so I'm tickled for it. So yes, this is my Stalactite sweater. Hopefully I'll have some progress on this here soon. And then the only reason the sleeves aren't divided for this is because I actually got a surprise the other day. My LYS put out a call for sample knitters, gosh, probably a month and a half ago. And so they sent me an email the other day asking if I responded to their call on Instagram, and I said, hey, I would love to knit something for you guys. I like to knit shawls and garments. If you want me to make something, I'm happy to. And so they emailed me back Sunday or Monday and saying, hey, we'd like you to knit a sample for us. And so I went and picked that up Tuesday night. Like I said, my husband was sick, so I actually didn't stay for knit night. I was like, let me just pick up the yarn so I can get started. So for this, I am knitting the Rancho Relaxo pattern, and I apologize, I don't have the designer's name written down for that, but I'll list it down here. And I am knitting that on size 3 and 4 needles, and then the yarn I'm using is by a company called Knit One Crochet Two, and it's their daisy base. So I'll show you their label right here. So like I said, the company is called Knit One Crochet Two. The yarn itself is the daisy base, and it is 38% linen, 32% silk, and 30% hemp. And I got it in this really gorgeous pinky coral color. And so I have 3 balls of it. I caked it up last night and went ahead and cast on because they'd like it done in about a month. And so I figured let's get cracking. So I'll show you the pattern here in a second, but I wanted to talk about this yarn real quick. So since it has the linen and hemp in it, it doesn't like hold well in a ball, and so I thought I would be smart and put it on toilet paper rolls, my balls, so it would keep its shape. It's working okay. I feel like I've heard someone in the past talk about that as a way to help manage this yarn in the process of knitting it. It's not great so far, but it's okay. And then the hand and the feet, I wanted to try this yarn a few weeks ago to knit the water lily pattern that is an old pom-pom pattern. And so I was looking at it when I was in the LYS about a month ago, thinking about it as a possibility for that. And so this is the perfect opportunity for me to test out kind of a different base. As you guys know, I like to try new, interesting, different fibers, especially being a knitter in Florida. I want to find things that I can wear year round, not just in like the 2 months of winter that we get here. And I like making things with longer sleeves, but you know, wearable tees or 3/4 length sweaters or cardigans. So really excited to try this. It's incredibly soft because of the silk in it, and it doesn't feel kind of rough like other linen yarns that I've tried, because I do have a project that's long languishing for years now out of 100% linen, so it's not as crunchy and hard on your hands, but it does feel a little bit like twine, and you know, like macrame twine, but soft. So that's been interesting. Does not feel like wool in my hands. And then the other thing I'm noticing is it does have a little bit of give, but it doesn't have the bounce that you get out of a wool yarn. And so that's been interesting. That's one of the things when I was, you know, you see this here and it's like, you know, maybe that wasn't the best example because I feel like they're about the same. But anyways, it doesn't feel as springy, which is not an issue. It's just when I was knitting with it last night, I was like, what is different? Let me try and put my hand on what's different about this yarn, not as a critique, just, you know. So anyways, I cast it on. It is, hopefully by now I'll put a picture of what the pattern looks like here in the designer info. If not, I'll do it right here. But it is a V-neck, so you cast on and you work back and forth. This also does a series of raglan increases before joining in the round and doing some waist shaping. So I got through the first series of raglan increases last night. I need to stop and look at the pattern to see how many more I need to do. Tonight I'll pick this, actually probably tomorrow once I finish editing. But so I think I only have about 16 rows to go before I join in the round, which is not too bad. That's an hour or so's worth of knitting, and if we're gonna get a hurricane like it looks like, I should have plenty of time to, well, kinda, I'll get to that at the end. I should have some time in the next few days though to put a dent in this project. But otherwise, I really like the yarn that I'm getting, or the fabric that I'm getting from the yarn, and this is on size 4 needles, as I mentioned. Interesting construction so far, and I'm enjoying testing out this yarn. It's actually really pretty. I don't know if it's going to come through on the camera, but it has this marled color to it, so it's the 2 strands around each other. One's kind of, I think it's a 3-ply actually, but one is like a lighter orangey peach and the other is kind of a more grapefruity color, and so you're getting this kind of neon coral. It's really pretty. It's really pretty in real life, and I apologize, I am not filming earlier in the day. I got home from work, and like I said, my husband's sick, so I was helping him out, and then we ordered dinner to have it arrived, and it's just life. So yeah, and that is living in a super cool gift bag from the yarn shop, because I haven't had time to transfer it. I literally cast it on last night. So that's it for my whips right now. I think in the next few weeks I need to work on finishing the Rancho Relaxo shirt for the yarn shop, and then I also want to finish knitting my girlfriend's waiting for rain shawl that I'll be gifting her as her wedding present. Her bachelorette party's in 2 weeks, and I don't think it'll be done by then, which is fine because the wedding's not till November. I had thought I was going to be able to gift it to her at her bachelorette party. It's fine. I will take it out to the wedding with me and gift it to her before the wedding. And I had debated, like, will she want it now? Will she want it later? I can always mail it to her when it's done, but I do want to finish that. I haven't picked it up in 2 weeks because I had been kind of working on it tirelessly, and then I just set it down and never picked it back up. Sorry, Amelia. Sorry. So yeah, and then the only other whip, I think that's it for my whips actually. I don't think I have any other languishing whips. If I do, I'll talk about them on another podcast. So I do have a slightly heavy acquisition segment to talk about, and I will try and not linger too long. I had meant to talk about this in my last podcast, sat down, refilmed talking about it, and then still forgot to put it in the editing segment. Whoops. So, for those of you who don't know about it, there is a Scottish podcast that I like to watch called the We So and So podcast. I'll put her information right here. She hosted a knit along through this summer called, it was some kind of year of the garment knit along, but not actually for a year. I believe it ran from January through June or July. So I submitted, I believe, 5 projects for that. I did My Mom's Sunset Highway, Ingalls, Zweig, Marry Me at Mo, and I feel like there was one more in there that I finished. Oh, and Elton in the allotted time, and all of those are on my project page on Ravelry. So I worked on all of those from January through the end of the knit along. So I got 5 entries, yay! So, so I ended up winning. So this is a prize I got from her. It's came in this Toft project bag, and inside of it are 2 skeins of this gorgeous purple yarn that is showing up a little bit brighter than they are in real life. And so it's this really pretty purple. The yarn is from Cedar Hill Farm Co. It's a single ply yarn made out of 100% American Curator cross wool, 400 yards per 100 grams, and it is in the crocus colorway. I find it funny that yarn that originated in Georgia, then went to Scotland, came back to Florida, but the circle of yarn. So yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to make out of this because I'm not a huge fan of single ply. The yarn's pretty. It's a little toothy. it's a little crunchy, but yeah. So yeah, it'll probably go in my stash for a while, and I'll have to figure out maybe a shawl or something along those lines to make out of it. So she included some other little goodies like stitch markers and a card in there as well, which is really cute. And so yeah, I meant to talk about this last time and totally blank. So thank you, Kaz. It's a lovely package, and like I said, you guys go check out her podcast. It's really fun, and she knits garments faster than anyone I know. And then I did mention at the beginning of the episode that my husband, Mr. Yarn Curator, he went up to North Carolina recently, and for one of our friends who's moving to Japan with her husband. He's in the military. So she had a big going away party, and he went up there to wish her well. And so, being the good yarn husband that he is, he stopped by a yarn shop there called Warm and Fuzzy, which is in Cary, North Carolina. And it's a fabulous yarn shop. They have a great website as well. They carry a lot of great indie dyers and interesting yarns. So he picked up for me 2 skeins of Elan, which is a Irish hand dyer. And so I prefer fingering weight yarn is primarily what I knit with. I do have a small stash of DK as well. So this is her sock light base. It's 100 grams, 425 meters, and it's on an 80-20 base of superwash merino in nylon, and purple's my favorite color, so he did good with the color choices, and it's this variegated semi-tonal yumminess. I've wanted to own Elan for a long time now, and I've had opportunities to buy it in the past, and I've always just been drawn to other dyers at that moment in time, so this was a treat. I'm glad I finally can add this to my stash, and I'm not sure what I'm going to make out of it. He got me 2 skeins so I can make something bigger than socks, so maybe a shawl, maybe the main color of a sweater, with some contrasting colors in it. It could be something like a second Tegna or a water lily, which is, a more short-sleeved garment. Maybe knit the body a little bit shorter, so those are a possibility. So, and then, I feel like I've gone yarn crazy lately, but I did make a run back down to a good yarn down in Sarasota. They were having their final end of summer sale, so they had a bunch of stuff in their sale room that was 60% off. And then I also was on a mission to, like I said, I picked something up for Zoe. I'm gonna let her tell that exciting news on her podcast. I won't steal her thunder, but I will tease it. Teasing thunder. So I just got a modest little haul while I was there because I really don't need more yarn, and I'm getting ready to go to SAFF in October, but I think I'm going to buy primarily spinning fiber while I'm there. So excuse me while I reach into my bag. So they had these little skeins of mohair by Langlace. It is 58% mohair, 42% silk, and I chose this really pretty, normally this is a color I would not go for, kind of navy. It has ever so slightly a grayish, greenish undertone to it, and so I grabbed 4 skeins of this, which it's 100 grams, no, these are each 25 grams. These are 25 grams, 310 meters. I had to look them up on Ravelry while I was in there to get the yardage. I believe it's about 1,500 yards total that I have. And I want to hold these double with a fingering weight yarn to make probably one of Petite Knit's patterns, whether that's no frills or Caitlin Hunter has another Isklad, I believe is the name of the pattern that you hold double, and it has a cable detail along the raglan increase here. So I went ahead and picked these up for a project like that. They were $5 each, so I figured who can get a sweater's quantity of mohair for $20? Not many, so I got those. And then they were popular last summer, actually around this time last year. Junk Yarn, who is Kemper Ray, she's a local dyer in Raleigh. She had released last year her Crown Wools MCAL, and they had one of the kits for that in there. However, someone had already opened it up and taken out some of the mini skeins. So I asked the lady in the shop, I said, hey, can I just buy a couple of these minis out of here? And she went and asked the owner, and the owner said yes, and someone's already rifled through it. Go ahead. So I got 4 mini skeins out of there. These are each $2. So I can either use them in some kind of mini fade, at least these 3 right there, and then there's a blue one as well. I had a couple more in my hand, and I thought, you know what, use some self-control. These are the ones I really like. Just really like this blue color, and so yeah, I can either use them in a yoke, I can fade some socks together, I can throw them in a West knit shawl. But yeah, I really like those. I don't know the colorway names. I took a picture of the label in the shop for them. This one just has ever so slight speckling. And then this is kind of a gray with those bright pops of pink and black and purple. And then like a gray purple with some speckles in there. And then a more darker purple mauvey color with some speckles as well. So I have a little bag of minis. Maybe one day I'll make a minis blanket. I do have a Cozy Memories blanket as well going. That is languishing in the corner over here. So that's it for acquisitions. Thank you, Mr. Yarn Curator. And then yeah, in other life news, work is plugging along. I have a feeling by the time this is published, I'll be working overtime at the museum, prepping it for the storm that is incoming. So it's Thursday night tonight, and depending on what models you're looking at for the hurricane out on the Atlantic right now, it is either going to be hitting in the wee hours of Sunday night, Monday morning, or Monday, Labor Day, or even, excuse me, not Monday day, or Tuesday, in the wee hours of Monday night / Tuesday. And so I fully anticipate that my boss is going to call me in on Saturday to start doing hurricane prep. I don't work Fridays, and we had a 2-hour staff meeting today hashing out the details of it, and as of right now, I don't have to work my weekend, but with the new updated models, I'm probably going to go in. So it's probably going to be not a lot of knitting the next few days, but if it stalls over the state of Florida, there might be 3 hurricane days in there, so we'll see. Maybe there will be a lot of knitting then. And then, yeah, so I had wanted to scoot up about 2 hours north of here where my aunts live and drop off Zoe's thing that I picked up for her. That way one of them was getting ready to go up to North Carolina. It's just not going to happen with the storm coming. It's too much. It's too much to try and fit in. So I'm just going to continue preparing our house. I've slowly been picking up things at the grocery store this week. While my own husband's been sick, I've gone to the grocery store every afternoon after work to pick up some medicine. One day I went ahead and got a case of bottled water before it looked like we were really going to get hit. And at the start of the summer, we've slowly been buying goods, like canned goods and cases of water and things along those lines, just in case. So we're stocked on all that stuff now. Tomorrow I'll probably spend part of the day pulling in patio furniture and things along those lines. And maybe go get like a bag of chips or something just to pad the snackage in the house. So yeah, that's what's going on with that. And then I've been listening to Huntress, which is an audiobook I talked about in my last podcast. It's getting pretty good. It's getting good. I don't want to give much away, but that is a book by Quinn. It's historical fiction, set in World War II, and so yeah, I've been listening to that, and then Zoe has been hounding me to start listening to Ologies, which is a podcast about various ologies, like, I almost said Scientology, but I don't think there might be one in there about it, actually. I don't know, I haven't looked at it, but like, you know, she was telling me there's one on museology, which is the study of museums. There's one on genealogy, the study of gems, gemology, for lack of not knowing what that is called. So yeah, I'll eventually download some and listen to it. I've just been into my book, and then you guys can judge me if you want, but I've been re-listening to Friends. Rewatching Friends on Netflix. I never watched it when I was younger, and so I'm just going through it now. It's fun, it's mindless. I can pay attention to it enough and still knit something slightly more complicated. So yeah, and then my husband was out of town, and then he came back and he was sick, and so just kind of taking care of him and taking care of the house and everything that goes with being the only functioning person in the house. So yeah, I do have this little braid of Malabrigo here. It is Malabrigo Noob. It's probably what I'm going to spin up on my wheel next. I just need to unbraid this, check out the color progressions, and figure out how I want to spin it. So it's sitting here on my wheel waiting to be done next, and then after that, I'm probably going to start spinning up the Shetland that I have, and this is called the Baia Electrica for the colorway 865, and it's 100% merino wool. So I'll be spinning this here soon, and then I'm going to start carding up my Shetland fleece, so I can start spinning that. And yeah, so I was playing with my drum carder, making some bats last night, and just, you know, getting a feel for it. I've never had a carder of my own before to mix fiber. I think I finally got the hang of hand painting, so I'm excited. Maybe I'll put some pictures in of what I carded. So yeah, I think that's about it for everything, you guys. Like I said, I apologize for the slight delay in getting this out to you, but thank you so much for watching. Oh my god, I can't believe I almost forgot to talk about this. So you guys, I hit a huge milestone. I just passed 100 subscribers the other day on this channel, which is nuts. It's crazy. What? So to celebrate that, I want to do a little giveaway because that is huge. So I'm going to go dive into my stash and if I have some Handspun, I might give away some Handspun to celebrate 100 subscribers, or maybe I'll spin this and give it away. But yeah, I want to do something to celebrate that. So comment down below so yeah, I want to do something to celebrate that milestone, that achievement. So comment down below, just leave a comment about something that has brought you joy this week. And I will pick a winner from the comments listed. So yeah, something that's made you happy, something that's allowed you to end your week on a high note. And yeah, I'll choose random number from one of those down below, and yeah, hit that thumbs up, and yeah, and then also either leave me your Ravelry or your Instagram name, which is the best way. Leave me a way to get in contact with you as well. That way, if you do win, I can get in touch and mail something off to you. So yeah, that truly is it for today's episode, you guys. We will end on a high note and reward people who have made it that far to the end. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you like today's episodes, feel free to thumbs up, subscribe to stay up to date on regular content. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Have a great one, you guys. Bye.